All right, so your trunk rotation's a little tight, so it'll be challenging for you to keep your trunk closed as your hips are opening. Your hip abduction's tight. That's going to be like the side when you lifted your leg to the side. What that means is you're going to get stuck in when you move sideways down the mound, and then you're going to want to go in rotation early. And the earlier we start rotating, the earlier we start transferring energy. If we start transferring energy early, that means we don't have enough time to build energy, right? Your ankle's a little weak, so I know you're young. How old are you?
14.
You're 14. So all these things we're gonna, more than likely, as you build your strength, these are all gonna get a lot better, okay? So like your ankles need to get stronger. Your hip rotation's not too bad. Your hip flexion's really tight. So that's gonna affect how your trunk can move forward. I bet you have a weak posterior chain. That means like your glutes, your hams are gonna be weak, and that's gonna affect how far you can throw your trunk forward. Your hip extension's a little tight. That means if you hit a full stride, being able to extend your femur into your hip rotation is gonna be affected, and that's gonna affect how well you open your hips. For your age, that's actually pretty good grip strength for your age, but we need to double that. As you get older, we need to bring your weight up. All your verts and stuff are probably average for your age, but definitely a lot more power and strength. Like your strength is probably average for your age, but all this, over the years, we really need to push to the elite level. So those will be big on making this move better, really getting the speed and the power out of this. So as we take you out of your leg lift, okay, your first movement is you push that knee inward, that back knee. That's probably because you're putting your weight into your knee. You want to put your weight into your hip or your glute, because if you put it into your knee, it can collapse, and that's a collapsing knee. And what happens is, like I said, you get to the point where now you've probably maxed out your hip abduction, the ability to move sideways, your groin is starting to tighten up, and your knee is inward. That means you're going to open and just collapse. So you open, you collapse. And what needs to happen is, before we open, we have to be in a position where the shin is linear, the knee is external, not internal. So when we open, we can drive and we can explode through the back hip. And that what it'll do is put all this force behind the back hip rotation. Because when we look at what's called your kinematic sequence, this is how things are accelerating over time. So in this graph, this is time, this is degrees per second. That's how something is rotating over time. So just like on the avatar, the red is the hip, the green is the trunk. If something's going really fast here, it's shooting up and down. So if you see something just go, that's a really explosive rotational movement. So we can see right here, as your hips went, it's just this slow little rolling hump. Just like your trunk, it's a slow little rolling hump. That means there's not a lot of speed in it. It's like slowly rotating. That's where we were talking about you getting more explosive as you get older. We need to turn these into hard V's. When they become hard V's, that means you're exploding. And that's when your velocity is really going up. So when your strength goes up, when your speed goes up, your power goes up, we should see that here in the V's. Now, when we have like a slow rotation of movement and coming up through the hips, we'll pull the glove early, and you can see the blue, that's your glove. So your glove's actually going first, and it's going about as fast as your trunk, and it's going before your trunk. So it's trying to create a lot of the power. So you pulling that glove down is you trying to create a lot of your energy, and we don't want to do that. When high velocity guys land here, their glove is still up. When you're landing, your glove is down. That means you're early to try to start your arm to go. And that's also why your arm got up so early. Your arm got cocked up as that was pulling down, because that's what you're trying to rush. You're trying to rush your arm to release, okay? And so when we're doing this well is when the glove isn't pulling, it's just staying up. The hips are peaking higher and harder. The trunk, the green, is peaking later out here. The trunk is peaking because elite guys separate the hip peaks and the trunk peaks. And then your arm goes. So right now we got glove pulling, everything going together, and your arm even leading your trunk because your trunk isn't really moving forward. So this is rotational energy. You can see your linear energy, your forward energy isn't there. And that's typically what happens. If I'm just all rotational energy, where does rotational energy go? Up, right? So everything just stays up. But when I start moving more linear energy down the mound in that drive where your leg's not collapsing, and I start delaying my trunk and pushing that energy through my trunk, all of a sudden I get all that forward trunk energy. And that's the elite energy. So right now, all rotation for you, and your arm has to push ahead, as you see here, right here, as it pushes ahead, because your trunk's not going forward, so it has to go forward, okay? So there's just a lot of work for you to do here, like, and that's good at your age. We've got to get bigger, stronger, faster so we can put these peaks in there. And we got to learn to delay the trunk, and don't pull the glove. Delay the trunk and allow that energy to build in the lower half, and then see it all translate forward. And that's when your velo goes up 20 miles an hour. I mean, easily go up 20 miles an hour. If you gain, 30, 40 pounds, you double your strength and power, you sequence this better, you're 85 at that point. So that's what you got to plan for over the next year or two. Okay? And all the programming is going to take you through it.